Hello, everyone. LJ Young for Daddy and My Daddy. I'm coming from beautiful South Carolina today. Um, I had to pull over for this one. Sometimes things come to me that I would like to share to the people that are living paycheck to paycheck. No matter how much money you make, you're still living paycheck to paycheck and cannot figure out why. Sometimes the longer it's been since I've been out of debt, the more and more I realize that my time is the most valuable thing on earth. And sometimes I sit back and I think about how much time, how much of the time in my life I've allowed to be wasted, you know? And I say allowed because your job, friends, family, people will waste your time if you let them, even in relationships, you know? Let me give you an example. I had a friend schedule a time to, for us to talk on the phone, right? And it's not just him. I'm just pointing out because that's the just the latest. And I let that person pick the time. And at that time, they didn't call, right? And and I'm a stickler on that because once I became debt free, that's the best way I can explain it. You really start to focus on that. Maybe because I understand that that's the most valuable commodity on earth is time. You don't get any more time, right? And and then about an hour later he calls. Now I did not answer. I didn't answer the phone. And not saying that I was mad or upset. I was just thinking to myself, if that grown up person knew to call at that particular time, why did they just decide to call an hour later like it was nothing? And not even leaving, hey, you know what? This happened, that happened, whatever, right? You just just no, even not even a voicemail, just called. All right, didn't go. And I thought to myself, how many people do that? Think about it. Just think about how many people you call that call you or you call them and say, hey man, call me at this time. And they either just don't call or they call 15, 20 minutes later and give you a reason to why they didn't. Even at work, you schedule a meeting, right? To meet up with a coworker. It could be even your own boss because your boss will expect you to be there on time, but they'll show up late. And since they're the boss, we normally don't say anything, right? Or we'll wait the 10, 15 minutes they show up and they'll walk in the room and say, hey, this ran over, that ran over. Whose whose problem is that? Is that their problem or your problem? That and it's business, it's nothing personal, especially at work. It's nothing personal. Like if today, I always say that I would not fit back into the regular world, working world, like I once did before because the fear of debt is not allowing those things to happen. And I'll give you an example. I was a computer engineer for the last 20 years. All right, and as part of this level of tier support, you're required to be on call for a week at a time every few months. It's not even that often. Every few months, 24 hours a day for that week. You can be called on anything, right? And when I think about it, this one person is called on the many different systems that are available at this particular job, right? And it's not just specific to this job, it's any job, computer type of job. But you're required to take a call if there's some systems down on multiple platforms of systems now. There is no way one person can know every platform in the company. You can't. That's impossible, right? So the only thing I would do is call the person that understands that area of the system. Now, this other person is not on call, but I called them anyway because I didn't know about the system, right? And so I was my specific purpose was a virtualization system. I was very good in virtualization, and every time that system would go down, I would get a call. Now, I would get a call even when I'm not on call, and I would still accept the call. And now today, I think back, What is the purpose of on call if I'm still going to get called anyway when I'm not on call? That doesn't make any sense, right? But yet I accepted it. And I remember, this is the good part. I remember waking up in the middle of the night feeling like this is not right. You know, this can't be normal. It can't be right. But yet I would get up and do it anyway, right? Like almost like I had no choice in the matter. But I did have a choice. I did have a choice. I could have said, no, that wasn't in my contract. No. When I scheduled meetings and people would show up late, or if I was scheduled for a meeting and I show up on time and they show up late, I could have waited, not be a complete asshole, but wait about 10 minutes. If I go 5 minutes in, okay, all right, things happen. But about 10 minutes, because that pushes my timetable back because of their timetable was messed up. That has nothing to do with me. I could have easily said, well, it's time to reschedule that meeting. To where you got to get people to where now you're going to seem like you're the asshole because it's the stupidest thing too. You're going to seem like the asshole because you're a stickler on your time, but you're not. That's their problem. It's not your problem. It's their problem. Get people to the point to where I get people to the point to where if they make a schedule something with me, and I hear this all the time. Oh man, we know how Linnell is with his time. Yeah, that's exactly what I want you to be. That's exactly how I want you to be when it comes to Linnell Young's time. Because I get no more. I don't get any more. No matter how much overtime I work, I get no more extra time. So I got to roll this window down just a little bit. Sorry, you guys, because it's getting warm in here. I know, ain't that crazy? Warm in I get no more time. I can't count how many businesses, how many jobs I allowed that to happen. And you better believe certain businesses know what they can do to you, what you allow, because you allow it. Trust me when I say that. You allow them to take your time. I feel almost anger for the people that actually clock out and go back to work so they can finish up. Do you realize what you're doing? You're saying the time in my life is worth absolutely zero and I'm going to give it to this business for free. That's what you're saying. That's what you're telling them. Who's going to respect your time if you do that? I have also a friend that when we talk on the phone, I had to switch it up. Now you can switch it up without letting them know this, but every time he'd call me, right, I have time and then I'd listen to whatever it is he's talking about, right? Unconditionally, undisturbed. Okay, all right, cool, cool. But when it came to reverse, every time, I kid you not, his phone would click, you'd hear the other line click. Hey man, I gotta take this. That happened several times. To the point now when he calls, I'll let it ring, let it go to voicemail, and then I'll call back. I'll call back later when I have time, and either he'd answer the phone or he wouldn't. But it let me know how important it was or was not. You have to stop because I don't think people know that. Everybody's so used to just saying, hey, man, oh, whatever, I'm 5 minutes late, I'm 10 minutes late. It shouldn't be a big deal. No, it's not a big deal to you. It's a big deal to me. Becoming 100% debt free has brought such a huge different perspective to my life. It's unexplainable. But time is the most, especially the older I get, because I realize since you, money is spoken in two languages, debt and debt free. If you've always been in debt, you only speak debt. You have no idea the language of debt free even exists. So once you speak differently, the other people that understand, that know how to manage money, they understand how to manage money and manage their time because it's so important. And now realized how to skip steps. Like, for example, I look, I don't look at old people as old, right? You know, when you're young, you look at an older person, you think, oh, they're old, they don't know, they're not hip, they're not up to the young lingo, whatever you're thinking, right? Because I remember thinking just like that, but totally forgetting I was young. I was new to Earth, not them. They've been here way longer than me, right? And now that I understand the money language, I can speak to an older person that understands money, because just because they're older doesn't mean they understand money. You have to understand this language. It's just the way you talk. It's the way you speak, the way you say things. An older person can help you skip a lot of financial hurdles. It's not difficult, but you gotta realize and accept that you're young, right? You're young. They've been on Earth longer than you. They can tell you a couple of things that you might not know, but you got to be ready to hear it. And they also got to hear the way you speak. If you speak as if you understand money and management, and it's the simplest of things. I'll give you an example. If you're financing a cell phone and you have no problem, and you believe, if you tell a person, hey, I'm financing a cell phone, what's wrong with that? I can afford the payments. You're not speaking the same language. If you finance cars every 2 to 3 years, you're not speaking the same language. You don't understand how it all works, right? And some people hearing me, they probably get offended by that, but it's not nothing to do with trying to offend you. It's just facts. It's just math. And if your feelings start to get involved, realize you're messing up already, because when you involve your feelings with your money, that's where things start messing up. An older person can tell you some things. An older, smart financial person can tell you a few things. It doesn't matter their business. Don't be fooled by people's stuff. Uh, like if somebody was asking financial advice from me, right? No, if I was asking financial advice from another person that so-called knew about money, I would ask to see their personal credit report, because it would tell me everything I know. Same thing as a business. When you go fill out credit applications, what do they want to see? Your credit report. They don't care if you walk in the building with nice clothes on, you drive up in a Mercedes Benz, and you're a doctor. That means, I want you to understand, people, that means absolutely nothing. Nothing. The more debt you're in, the more of the time in your life you do not own. Wealth is wealth is owning the time in your life. The deeper of debt you're in, that means the deeper you don't have any. You have to sell your time for whatever price to get out of debt. Whatever, add up all your debt. Go through your credit report, add up all your debt. That's the price of your freedom. And the hardest part is actually believing that's the price of your freedom, because everybody around you doesn't even pay attention to it. They believe their price is worth minimum, the price in their life is worth minimum wage. The price in their life is worth $50,000 a year. The price in their life is worth $100,000 a year. If you believe that, that's what it is. Think about it this way. There are people out there making millions or even billions. And say like you're making $50,000 a year. Make that comparison. 50,000, a million a year. That's huge. But those people making $1 million, $1 billion, they're human just like you and I. You think they're more brilliant than you or something? They some kind of genius? No, that's not. It's just basic math. They understand the value of the time in their life.